welcome to What the Hell. Today we're going to talk to Troy Warshel about Operation uh, Enduring Warrior. Now, I got to say that your last name, yeah, that's a military name. I've been thinking about
Yeah.
that once I saw your business card when we were at the Total Archery Challenge, and that's how we met. We haven't met the Total Archery Challenge where you're doing the sponsorship for your organization there. And go ahead and tell us a lot about your organization.
Well, thanks, sir. Dave. Really appreciate you having me on. Operation Enduring Warrior is a 501c3, and our mission is to honor, empower, and motivate our nation's wounded veterans, law enforcement officers, and now fire service through their emotional, mental, and physical recovery from their injuries. And we do that a number of ways, and typically it's getting people out and getting them moving again. Uh, we our bread and butter in the past has typically been obstacle course races. Give people a challenge on how do you do things differently. You may not be able to do them the same way you used to be able to do it, but you can still do a lot more than folks probably give themselves credit for. So we were able to get people out, get them moving, and uh, see them through their recovery. And like I said, we started out as an obstacle course race primarily as our tool, but then we've since expanded. So we have adventure program. We go out. We're working on camping. We have, again, like you mentioned, the archery program, something that's a little bit under a year old, but is one of our probably our most popular program at this point, just because it gives veterans some tools to be able to overcome their challenges, to be present in the moment. Because I know, as you can attest, if you want to be good at slinging arrows downrange, it takes 100% concentration to be able to
It
get there.
does, and it also takes a lot of because I've done like recurve most of my life,
Okay.
and I got in the compound. Total, I mean, the muscles right here and right here. That's the only thing that hurt,
Yeah.
and it's starting out and everything like that. But you actually have one archer in there that I was talking to. He's one arm. He got hit by a drunk driver, and he got bored. I guess he got bored, and he's like, I'm gonna sling arrows." And I was listening to the Free Range America podcast, and he's like, "Yeah, I almost hurt my neck getting ready towards that tournament because I was using my mouth to
Yeah.
shoot arrows." And he is unbelievably good.
Oh, he is. That's John Lopez. In
Yeah.
fact, he's one of my classmates that went through the indoc process with me. And
Okay.
we talk about that in a bit. But yeah, he is one of our most prolific, great idea guys, and has, I think, talking with him and one other guy, the whole archery program was their baby, and really pushed it forward. And I'll tell you, you watch Lopez shoot, somebody that's got one arm. He holds he pulls a 90-pound bow with his teeth.
It's
And
just,
yeah, his dentist has got to be just, waiting
yeah,
for him to come in.
yeah.
But he's actually getting ready to try and qualify for the Paralympics. He's
Yeah.
going to go as
Uh,
a
that's what we were talking about when he was there at Total Archer when we were at the BRCC charity auction.
right.
And
Yeah, and it's amazing. He is he's a funny guy, but he's got such a great heart. And you watch him, you watch him concentrate and shoot, and he laughs and jokes about everything else. But man, I'll tell you, you put a bow in his hand and you watch him become serious really fast.
yeah,
And it's just an honor to be able to be out on the course with him and shoot and just have a good time.
yeah, that's another amazing thing that every time I look at stuff like this, it's the basic fact of how horrible my life is. And I see something like that, and it's like he's pulling up. Man, I am just worthless. What? I can't even compete on that kind of. And he's so good just with one arm, and I'm trying to. I have both arms. I'm trying everything. I'm like, man. But
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot of people that actually doing the stuff that it's just It's amazing what they're overcoming, and you're still stuck in like, and you have everything going for you, and you're still not even getting on par with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at what those guys are able to overcome and achieve, and then you when you wake up in the morning, think, oh, my knee hurts or my neck hurts or my back hurts. Just you look at that, you're like, all right, it's time for me to shut up and get going.
Exactly. I've had several people come up to me, and depending on what person's life ends up having a bad day that day, they're like, "Oh, my elbow hurts really bad. I don't know if I can go to work." There's a guy that doesn't have an arm that's shooting a bow with his teeth, and you're telling me that your elbow hurts and you can't really go. That
Yeah. Hey, you have an elbow, so
yeah,
get up and go to work.
exactly. But what other events? Because you had an event this weekend that you said you were doing, right?
Right. So we have a process to make mass athletes, and if you've had an opportunity to look at our website, the mass athlete team are a group of individuals who really go through a lot of training, a lot of conditioning, and our job is to get our honorees through whatever event they want to do safely. And I mean that goes all the way from an archery shoot to a Spartan beast or some of those events, and we take people through that single, double, triple amputees, and we're charged with making sure they do it safely. So to do that, you can imagine there's a pretty decent physical component to that. There's a big mental component to that, and then how we evaluate the folks that want to become mass athletes is there's a 3-part process, and part of it is do you understand what the organization's about? Can you do some fundraising? Can you think clearly about somebody comes up to you on a course and asks you a question, can you
At least
form a
volunteer?
coherent sentence? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's the physical part, and that's what we tested this weekend. We won't talk about the secret sauce, but suffice to say, it's a uh, pretty challenging physical event that we do over the course of a weekend, and it's all designed to make sure that somebody is not going to quit on that honoree in the middle of a race course, and you're mentally and physically capable of doing that.
I don't
And this,
see how they can quit. I mean, honestly, if I was standing there and everything, I mean, you'd have to just look at the world in a different aspect, because I would just keep. I was like, that was an alarm that I forgot to. I'm sorry, but
that's all right.
but I was when I was doing the archery, a guy was like, "Hey, can you come with me?" And because I'm all alone, and he'd gotten shot really bad, and he had a big leg. I guess it was a leg brace.
Hmm.
It was his whole leg, and we went through the whole thing. We were both tired afterwards, but
Hmm.
it was that John Dudley course that really broke us.
Right, right.
But I mean, if I quit, if I just like halfway through one of the courses and I was just like, I can't do this. But I'm seeing a man that has a bum leg moving around more
Hmm.
than I am. You just got to be a special kind of loser to actually just look at that and go, no, I'm gonna quit.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I think helping the honorees out is really a key motivator. But, for the physical portion, I mean, if you can imagine, in a uniform, gas mask, everything else, and it's 105 degrees out, and you've got to get folks in a wheelchair over a rough course, it can be pretty trying, especially when you're in that mask 8, 9 hours. And
Uh, I hear
yeah,
you.
I mean, you got to be able to continue to push on and can't stop. And that's kind of the thing that we're trying to stress to these guys, that these folks, their loved ones are trusting them in our care, and you've got to be you know mentally and physically strong enough not only to make it through the course, but to be alert and make sure that your honorees doing all right, that they're not having any problems. Be strong enough to make sure that you can get yourself and them safely through the course. So it's a big physical fitness commitment, and it's a bit of a labor of love. For old guys like me, it gives me an excuse to try and stay in shape. But it's it is really challenging, and it's part of it is we're testing that mental fortitude of these folks. Do you really want to be here? Because why am I going to put myself through a bunch of abuse if all I want is the fame and glory of it? Because we pride ourselves on being silent professionals.
Yeah.
And if you're in it for you, that's the wrong reason, and I don't want you here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to the point of, I did honor flight 2 years ago, and basically all that is it you get veterans, they're going to Washington D.C., they're seeing the memorials, and most of these people are like in a wheelchair, they're decrepit,
Right.
they're from like World War II to Korea
Right.
War, stuff like that. And me being a military veteran from Operation Enduring Freedom, I didn't think of it. And when you go through it and you see the fanfare of, hey, this is we care about you, we do
Yep.
this for you and everything. And I was like, okay, now I understand.
Sure.
I just didn't understand. I was like, I even went in and thing. I was like, listen, I'll go and I'll help you guys out. No big deal, but I don't feel I probably won't feel the emotional stuff that everybody else is getting. And I did. I teared up a little bit when we're coming home and everything. And my dad, that was a Vietnam vet, he was like, I can't believe that they did this. I mean, it wasn't just like a couple of people. It was like a walkway, and they had like fire. When we landed in Washington D.C., they had fire trucks shooting their water and everything at the
Shooting
plane.
water cannons.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and it's free to every veteran.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had to pay like $600. It's basically like a surcharge to get all the stuff and everything like that. But
sure,
it's something you can do to appreciation people that, especially like the forgotten war of Korean War.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just to show our thanks and everything. Even the people that actually served that want to show their thanks to the people that served before them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, we all, when you get out of the service, you sort of lose that family bond that you've been, that group of that brotherhood, that bit of family. And, we've, for me, especially, I know that's true. And I think for others, you find that OEW becomes that family again. It gives people, obviously, military veterans, we've got that dark gallows humor, and, the way we talk to each other doesn't really go over well in the civilian world.
I get looks.
Yeah.
I mean, I get like death looks, like, why are you even existing at times?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, things come out of your mouth that you wouldn't think about. And then you sort of look around at the civilian population that's standing around you with their mouth hanging open, just completely shocked that this comes out of your mouth. You're like, what? This is normal. Well, I guess, in other circles, it's not normal. And, so you kind of have to be on guard. And we find that, you bring people in and you let them be that person that they were. And, that it just unbelievable, the change that comes about them. We had one guy who was a Vietnam veteran and got him started. And he said something that really struck home for me. He said, until I found this organization, I never felt like I was part of anything again, or felt like I was home. He said, this to me is my welcome home. This is my family. These are the folks that I feel comfortable around. And just to watch him come out of his shell and, and really blossom into the person that he probably has been all his life, but just kind of felt like he wasn't able to be himself. So, I mean, things like that are just unbelievable. And you watch especially an injured veteran or law enforcement officer, you watch them accomplish a goal. And, we always tease as part of the masked athlete team, I'm glad my gas mask is blacked out, because I don't know how many times I've been standing watching somebody accomplish a goal that they never thought they'd do again, and tears are just rolling down my face. And,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, how could you be more? I mean, at that point, I think I'm getting as much out of it as they do. I'm just so proud for them and so happy, and to watch them come down and a big smile on their face, and man, it's really heartwarming. It really is.
Not gonna lie, you gave me a little goosebumps on that one. I felt it.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you what. Come out and do some events with us. You'll be amazed at how motivating it is.
Oh, I can imagine. Now, this is Johnny. He's the guy that I had to like 5 minutes into this getting tell him to get here. But
Sorry, Johnny. I appreciate you, jumping through some hoops to get here.
Yeah, yeah, you know it's going to be a good morning when the first text message is not from your girlfriend, but from this guy right here. So
I'm cute and adorable. So
Yeah, I
now,
can see that.
how did this whole thing get started?
So it started back in 2013. A group of folks that wanted to do something to give back got together and formed the organization, and it was the core membership. In fact, one of the guys is still our CEO, Walt Romano. Amazing human being. He and a few others were the genesis of this. This was back when the old Walter Reed was in full swing. People were, everybody coming back from the war with injuries, and they wanted to give back and do something. Originally it was all about veterans. That was the group that they were focusing on. They were all veterans, and got together and formed this concept and really pushed it forward. Fast forward a little bit as the organization starts to grow and trying to serve our target audience and population, and more massed athletes, a little bit larger structure, pulling in more volunteers. Our volunteers, we call them Operation Enduring Warrior Community Ambassadors, or OCAs, and that's our volunteer structure. And quite frankly, they're the bread and butter that make this organization work. They're a lot of the driving force behind what we're able to do, just from a grassroots standpoint. And it's great to be able to bring them into the family and really be part of this. And we continue to grow. We've I think we probably have over 150-ish very active volunteers. Going from a core group of 6 who had a great idea to probably upwards of 200 people that are, full-time active in the organization, maybe 1,500 people that are tangentially associated with or active in the organization from time to time. So, from a small group with a good idea to where we are now, it's been a big change and a wild ride.
yeah, I'm associated. I'm the vice commander for my local American Legion post out here, and so I came up with this really awesome idea of starting a ruck chapter here.
Okay.
So I kind of understand the mission there, and it's kind of become like a passion project of mine out here as well. And a few of our guys, my other vice commander, he helps head up the rucking program out here. Um, he got turned on and associated with Enduring Warrior as well, along with his wife and one of the female members of our post. She's pretty active in our rucking program as well. So, I mean, when they when they brought this to the table, I immediately got behind it 100% because, and like you had said earlier, just being able to see people do things that they never thought that they'd be able to do again. I mean, uh, that not only is it heartwarming, but I mean it's motivating as well, because you see these men and women, they come home and I mean their bodies have just been ripped up,
Right.
and or even law enforcement. There's a police officer. He's very active on TikTok. He got shot in the arm, and it did a lot of nerve damage. He didn't have a lot
Right.
of use in his hand, and now you see him posting these videos where he's like grabbing pencils and he's actually writing his name again. And he, I mean, it humanizes not only the badge, but it really kind of brings, for me at least, it brings forward that human element behind the uniform and behind the job.
Right.
And it's these men and women who've dedicated their lives. I mean, the some would say just the best years of their youth to defending an ideal, to defending whether it's their community or defending their country. And they're sacrificing so much. And like you said earlier, it yeah, I mean it brings tears to your eyes, and it's really motivating. I mean, especially for guys like myself. I draw a 60% disability from my time on active duty, and so it just being able to, as an individual who does those types of activities, it really it really puts me in a position where I have to push myself. And when I accomplish those things, like I was in the infantry, so it's been years since I've done like a 10 or 12 mile ruck march, So I mean,
Right.
when I'm able to finish that, and I feel that also familiar feeling on my feet, those blisters or just the sore legs or whatever.
Yep.
But the fact that I completed it, to me, I'm like, it kind of gives me that second wind afterwards. But being able to see these young men and women who have shut themselves off and closed out that portion of their lives because they didn't think that they could do the things they used to anymore, and just seeing the satisfaction that they get from that, it's I mean it's an absolutely amazing feeling, and it's something that you really you really want to be able to hang your hat on that and just walk away with just like this overwhelming sense of pride and accomplishment, knowing that you know we were able to help make that happen for them. And I think that that's the biggest takeaway for me. I mean, they say that there's no such thing as a selfless act anymore because I mean everybody gets something out of it always, but
Sure.
and it's not the notoriety or anything like that. I don't do it for any kind of like celebrity or anything. It's for me. I'm just trying because I look at our law enforcement and our veteran community as a national resource because we have that unique perspective on history.
Right.
And and I had made we had a memorial ruck for an airman that had committed suicide out here. And afterwards we had a guy from I think it was Rally Project. He was kind of giving this wrap up speech, and then he looks at me and I'm like, okay, why are you looking at me? And he goes, sure, this gentleman over here has got something pretty pertinent to say. And I'm like, do I come across as the kind of guy that looks like he has something, contributive to say? But, I just, those all important string of words, that to caveat of what he said kind of a thing. And you hear almost every enlisted man in the area, that was in attendance that day. They were kind of like, oh, okay, he's one of those guys. Right. So, but, you know, the history is written by the victors.
Right.
And I told him, I was like, I refuse to be one of those guys that lets our perspective of history die with us. We have to be able to tell those stories. And when we've got 22, or that number fluctuates, 22 veterans to 20, whether it's veterans or law enforcement or first responders, they're committing suicide, and it's a pandemic. I mean, that's
Right.
the truest definition of the word pandemic for me. We have to be able to contribute to those annals of history. We have to be able to pass that information along, um, and and by giving through projects like yours, through Enduring Warrior, and through rucking programs, whether it's a local rucking program or Go Ruck, um, I think that we're giving our community that opportunity to pass that along, and I think it's overall for the betterment of our country
Oh,
as a
absolutely.
whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, you see these stories in the news where it's like we're always being demonized, whether it's law enforcement, especially law enforcement these days. And I think a lot of the thank you for your service type stuff that's being extended to the veteran community. I think a lot of that is just it's just fashionable for the most part. I mean,
Sure.
you get those people that genuinely, extend that thanks for, hey, thanks for going out there and doing the things that I wasn't willing to do. Or you get the other veterans from some of the older campaigns that they're like, hey, young man, young woman, thank you, and like
Right.
they'll buy a cup of coffee or whatever. But um, I think that the overall mission statement of your program is it's amazing. I mean, it's almost like a no-brainer, but at the same time, the fact that you know th- these they this idea was formed and it was pitched and it was worked and it was brought into something very tangible. I think is above and away just it's real. I mean, for
It
lack of
sets
a
us
better
off to
term,
the
it is.
community to
It's
actually
yeah.
grow a little bit, because like if a person that's never really saw any kind of action or anything like that, they go into this and they start talking to these people of how it actually was, they get the sense of what they actually accomplished in their lives.
Right. Right.
And
And it's I mean it's challenging because, you guys know as veterans and law enforcement officers as well, you have a group of experiences that you've gone through and you put that stuff in a box and you never want to open the box. The problem is the box doesn't like to stay shut, and all those memories and those emotions and everything come flooding out. So, we one of the things we try and do is, develop that sense of community and family so that if, if somebody's having a rough day, you can get in touch with somebody who understands what you've gone through, who understands what you're feeling. And it's hey, you need to call me and vent, you want to yell at me, scream at me, I don't care. But at least if you're alive, you're yelling and screaming at me.
I've,
Yeah.
So,
I've
we can deal with that, anything else afterwards.
I think I've only had one where had to get physical, but I was like, it went physical and nothing like bad. I was like, we prepared. I had my gear on and everything like that, and he just beat the crap out of me. And then afterwards, I was like, "Are you feeling better?" He's like, "Not really. You look like shit."
Yeah, I mean, when I started the rucking program out here, one of my bigger selling points was muscle memory is a hell of a drug.
Right.
And anytime we introduce or invite somebody, anytime we introduce the program to somebody new, and we're kind of giving our sales pitch there, so as to why they should get out of the house, is we don't make people talk about their demons when they come out, and it's like you said, it's about that sense of community, and as long as they know that there's other people that are like them out there, that it's okay, that they know that they don't have to go through that stuff alone.
Right.
And the fact that when you're out there and you get your body doing things that it remembers doing, it gives you that safe sense of connection to the past,
Right.
to where, okay, now your body's in this mode and your brain's getting used to doing some of these things again. But then all of a sudden you realize, I'm not out here doing it by myself, and this is really happening, and I can trust these
Yep.
people. Because I mean, we get out there most of the time and just give each other a bunch of crap.
Oh,
And
exactly.
yeah, so I mean, it's like we can pick on each other, but somebody from the outside picks on us, although it's all hellfire and brimstone. So it's like most of the time I'm usually the only Army guy out there. And we got a lot of Air Force people that are retired out here, obviously, because of Shepherd Air Force Base. So we get a lot of Air Force personnel, retired Air Force. We get a few Marines. Um, of course, this year I total bragging rights because of the Army Navy, football game, and
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
commander in chief trophy going back home to West Point. So, but
Yeah, bring up a sore subject. I see how it's going to be.
Yeah,
well, I
yeah.
mean, it's not like I cited scores or anything, 15-0. But I mean, now to be fair, the Air Force game was a lot closer, but still. Um, You know?
Yeah. True
You know,
statement.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's things like that that really, I think it's things like that that really drive these types of programs, and it's that sense of community, that sense of brotherhood. I mean, it reignites that esprit de corps,
Yeah.
and while it may not be the same sense of camaraderie, I mean, we're not chewing dirt and we're not fighting for that last 100 yards. I mean, in a physical sense, as far as geographically, but upstairs, I mean, mentally and emotionally, I mean, it's the same fight, and that fight never
Yep.
ended.
No.
So, and I tell people all the time that, just because we took the uniform off doesn't mean that the oath stopped being valid.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we train. I read an article, and I wish to God I had the bookmark for it still, but um, a lot of guys lose, a lot of men and women both, that we lose our identities when we come home.
Yep.
We take the uniform off, and we're like, okay, I'm not a warrior anymore. What do I do? And it's like, well, you can still identify as a warrior, but you just have to shift the focus of your mission. And essentially, that's what we're doing, is
Right.
we're shifting fire from an enemy that's downrange firing back at us to more of a home front centralized fight. And it's I mean, quite literally, it's a battle of attrition. And
Yes, it is. Yep.
it goes in ebbs and flows, but I think overall, as long as as long as we have programs like yours out there, and things like Rally Project and things like local rucking programs, things of that nature,
Sure.
that I think eventually we'll end up coming out on top on that. And will it ever completely go away? Unfortunately, I don't think it will, because I mean,
No.
there's just going to be those individuals that just don't want to be helped. And
Yeah.
to an extent, I can identify with those people, but I mean, the infantryman in me just refuses to walk away from a fight. So I mean, call it stubborn tenacity, but that's not only a genetic thing, because a lot of men in my family served in the military, but uh, I think it's more of an ingrained professionalism that we
Yep.
reach given
Hmm.
during the course of our careers.
Yeah. I mean, I think it probably comes from your roots growing up. I knew when I was growing up, what an amazing country, and why wouldn't I want to give back to it in some way? And for me, that was service,
Yeah,
serving the Marine Corps. But then after 20 years, you step out and you take the uniform off, and what was your entire life goes away. And now, your entire purpose is working a 9 to 5 job where you show up and, you know, do you show up really?
Yeah.
You're physically there, but are you 100% there? Are you putting your heart into it like you did your service?
yeah,
And that was tough for me. I mean, you talked about, sort of that loss of identity, and that, the challenges you faced. And, even me not injured, I felt that same thing. I was just kind of adrift. I didn't have a purpose. And, it related, how that related to me is, that, you know, a bored Troy is not a good Troy. I tend
Yeah.
to find myself getting into trouble. And, it
yeah,
was, it was a rough time, quite frankly. I mean, that without that sense of identity and who I was and feeling lost, you sort of migrate to those self-destructive behaviors, and it really put a strain on my marriage. And I didn't like the person that I was becoming, so I needed to focus. I still had service to give. I still wanted to be part of something bigger than myself, and I found this organization, and it became that new family and that new home that I've been missing. And I think probably almost to a member, the folks in the organization will tell you that they were searching for something and a way to give back, and this organization became that. So it's really been, for me, a labor of love, and I think a lot of other folks are really, they put their heart and soul into it. Uh, I hate the word safe space, because it's got a, all right. Are we a PG
Bad taste to it.
podcast? Are we a PG podcast, or is it an adult
no,
No.
podcast? Okay,
no.
so
Trust me, you have to see the other episodes of me talking about some really weird shit that he's like, "Hey son, you can't watch this episode. Went off again."
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
fair enough.
yeah. I
Safe
mean,
space is the
I
biggest
drop the
bullshit.
F-bomb like crazy. So yeah, don't worry about
Okay. Yeah.
it.
So the safe space is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard.
Yeah.
You just got to be able to trust in the people around you, and you'll find that somebody opens up and relates their story, and all of a sudden you're like, shit, that person's gone through something, I've gone through something similar. You can relate to that, and you start sharing stories, and you watch. You get a gathering of a bunch of folks, and then tears are flowing, and f bombs are flying, and you know all that sort of thing. And you're like, all right, I'm back home. I can relax and be myself. So no, I mean, absolutely, you guys are spot on, and John, appreciate what you guys are doing to help the community. It's phenomenal to see folks out there with the right mind and wanting to serve and still being part of that activity.
Yeah.
It's challenging. And I mean, veterans, law enforcement officers really have it bad. And I think fire service is the same way. As veterans, there's a lot of support resources, people recognize veteran service and things like that. But, we found in the law enforcement community, if somebody's injured or somebody has a hard time, they're they're looking to get rid of them as soon as they can because they're just a drain on the books. And you get guys that are, same thing. All of a sudden, you were part of a family for so long. Now you're injured. You're no longer useful. Thanks. Have a nice day. Good luck with the rest of your life. And we see specifically the pure police officers that are some of them are coming to the organization. I think they're finding that ability to relate to what we're talking about, and it's really helps out quite a bit. So we're definitely fortunate to have them, and I think the fire service guys are going to be the same way. We're seeing a lot of the same parallels there with that group of with that community. So it made sense for us to branch out to them, and how do we pull them into this family? And I think it's good. That's our next big challenge is figuring out how do we include the fire service folks in here. And it's kind of it's interesting. You talk about getting out and doing things and moving and rocking, and you get people that have never put a heavy pack on their back and walking around. And they're like, well, my hands don't work. I can't close my fingers. Like, all right, come on. Here's how we're gonna fix that problem. And
Yeah.
you teach them some different skills, and they understand, and that communal suck really helps bring people together.
Yeah. My buddy Mike, the guy I mentioned before, he's the other vice commander for my American Legion post. He's retired Air Force. So is his wife. And when I brought up when I was pitching the idea of a rucking program, he was like, man, come on, Air Force people don't do that shit. And so I got him out there and got him doing it. And I have created an absolute monster. He and his wife are doing all these events. I mean, they are constantly going. And I'm just sitting back going, well, hell, I mean, he's in better shape than I am now. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? So, it's like, I got to step my game up, but, and it's like, but at the same time, you just kind of sit back and, you can't help but feel a little bit of pride because, you're just like, gave this dude something new to do. And he just ran with it. And
Yeah.
kind of made it, kind of adopted it as his own, and even then, it's and you may be able to relate. It's like you look at somebody that you introduce to this activity, and when they kind of run with it and kind of mold it into something that they can call their own, and it's become part of their identity, you can't help but feel a little bit of pride.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have to stay humble, and as a male, and as I know as a Marine, and me as a grunt, it's one of those. That's one of the hardest things that we can do. It's like you see that meme where you got that line of urinals, and one dude's at the end, and then you get this guy that comes into the picture, and then he gets right next door to you, and he leans over, he's like, "I was in the Marine Corps," or I was in the infantry. It's like nobody cares,
Yeah.
I mean, but we do. And so, it's like Marines and infantrymen, especially Marine infantrymen, Army infantrymen, we walk around with this sense of bravado anyway. So it's kind of one of those we have to kind of deals.
Yep.
Otherwise you really have to turn in your man card. And, but at the same time, it's like you see a lot of these types of activities spearheaded by people like you and I, and yeah, I mean, stereotypical. It's like, okay, well, this guy, look, he beat his head against the wall for X amount of number of years in his life, and he's now physically he's paying for it. So what's he do? He starts a rucking program, or he starts a running club, or
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I mean, to
Everything hurts, so I'm going to go out and do more physical activity.
Exactly, everything hurts. It's like I'm left-handed, so
Yep.
everything on the right side of my body is tore up, like absolutely tore up, because that's the side that you fall on whenever you do your combat rolls.
Yep.
And it's like, to me, for the longest time, it like that never made sense. Like, I'm a left-handed, why isn't the left side of my body tore up? It's like I blew up my right knee, I dislocated my right shoulder, I've dislocated my right hip. So
man.
yeah, so and it's like, how it's like my body constantly hurts, and you feel like those old men, like you get up in the morning, you pour yourself a cup of good Black Rifle coffee, you go sit out on the front porch, you want to yell at kids for stay off my lawn. It's like, since when did you become a sergeant major? And but we put all of that aside, and we forget about the pain for a little bit, and it's almost like when you were a kid and you lost your tooth and you're sitting there tongue in that hole where your tooth used to be. And it's like, that's that good kind of pain. And I think that that's the biggest part of it. I think that it's esprit de corps, motivation, and just that sense of accomplishment.
Yep.
I think that that's the biggest, and I think that that's not only the biggest, but I think that that is the far and away the most preferred drug out there, at least for me.
Yep.
Well, that's the other thing with that kind of stuff is when you actually exercise. It's like I've had like bad headaches for like a couple of years, and then I watched a podcast with Tim Kennedy, and he was telling us like just go run around the block and everything, and it'll help. And I was like, when did that hurt? Well, I walked like 6 miles, and after I was done, it was clear. I didn't have a headache or anything. There's a lot of benefits of actually going out and working out that a lot of people don't understand. It's like my daughter saying she's having bad back problems. It was like, lose a little bit of weight. I can't believe you said that. Yeah. It's true though.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop being afraid of the truth.
Well, it's somebody said at one point, and it's probably one of the truest statements of the world. A comfortable life is the most horrible way to die. I mean, if you're not out there pushing and trying to get better and being uncomfortable and pushing the comfort zone. I mean, I've got back problems as well, but you kind of counterintuitive. I'm going to go put a ruck on my back and go hike, and all of a sudden my back feels better. You strengthen all those muscles, lose a little bit of weight, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I'm not such a turd. I feel a lot better, and let's move on. But try just being uncomfortable is always makes you better.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad enough that we've gotten to the age where we've introduced words into our lexicon like ointment and heating pads, but it's at the same time we still have those words like the phrases like embrace the suck.
Yep.
And I mean, do we know that it's going to hurt afterwards? Do we know that we're going to physically pay for it and bitch and complain? Yeah, absolutely. But it's in that moment that you're able to grab something that nobody else is able to grab a hold of and just run with it. And then you take that feeling, that sense of accomplishment, and you introduce that back into the community. You say, look, there's a way for us to live like this again, without actually having to worry about getting shot at, or, you don't have to look for piles of trash on the side of the road and stuff like that. And it's like, we don't have to freak out about random people talking on their cell phones, things like that. And you give them, like you said, a safe space. or not necessarily a safe space, but more like a secure area.
Yeah.
Or a
I
community.
like that way
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
secure
like that way
area.
better.
Yeah, so I mean, we give them that secure area and just say, all right, look, we can operate within these confines. And yeah, while we're still pushing ourselves physically, we're still getting out there. You can do that with a sense of just calm and peace, knowing that other people are going through it too, and that unlike when unlike how you felt after you got out, there's going to more than likely, well, I say more than likely, I mean, there's going to be somebody that's going to answer that phone.
Right.
Because I tell everybody all the time, and it's so cliche, and you see it posted on social media all over the place, but it's like, I'd rather listen to you bitch and complain than have to attend your funeral.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
so, and I've told friends of mine, I said, look, if I find out that don't expect me to show up at your funeral,
Right.
because at that point it's too late. I won't be able to say to you the things that I needed to say to you, and vice versa. So it's like we need to reach out to each other, and providing that secure area for for our brethren
Exactly.
is paramountly far and away like that is so mission critical.
Yeah.
Because without that secure area, you can't even go through the planning process. You can't issue that warning order before you get to the 5 paragraph,
Exactly.
and so it's like you can't define anything, you can't do anything until you have this. And so the fact that your program is out there, and we've got programs like the one that I'm involved with out here, and we got programs like Rally Project and things like that. I think is
Well, you shouldn't have an excuse.
No, I mean it's not an excuse, but the fact that we've got these resources available to us now, I think, I mean it helps. I mean, so many different generations, because we still have Vietnam veterans that are out there, killing
Yep.
themselves.
Yep.
And we've got the DAV, we've got the VFW, we've got the American Legion, and that's all fine. That's great. But a lot of those organizations are self-serving, and let's be honest. Let's not mince words here. They're self-serving, and they're about community, as far as like educating the public on
Right.
how the veteran community behaves. It's like, to me, that almost reinforces the stigma that comes with, that comes built into the title veteran. Especially with nowadays, you get all these bro vets and all these woke vets that come out there and like, I've got PTSD, don't shoot your fireworks off, or I'm crazy, I've got PTSD. It's like, no, we need to get away from that.
Right.
And, while I live by the mantra, make America offensive again. I haven't had my coffee yet this morning, so, but while I live by the mantra, make America offensive again, to a certain point, yeah, but at the same time, if we're expecting to be able to get a message across, especially to our fellow, veterans, we have to be able to practice that tact. It's not that we're tempering ourselves or filtering ourselves. We have to practice that tact. It's almost like we have to recall that memory, that muscle memory that came with military bearing.
Yep.
And we need to be able to focus on ourselves. It's like, yeah, I mean, that seems selfish to me. It sounds selfish on the surface, but if we can get our men and women to the point where they're able to start dealing with their demons, start addressing those ghosts and taking ownership of that, then we can start helping them make that transition of being a tool or a resource for outreach themselves.
Right.
And I think that would go a long way towards preserving that American legacy. I mean, because we see it enough as it is, especially in the mainstream media, where they try to take that American identity and whitewash it.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and they try to downplay our sovereignty and things like that. So we've got these men and women that go out there and defend our communities, that go out there and defend our nation, but then they come home and they're not literally spit on like they were when the guys came home from Vietnam, but figuratively and through social media. I mean, it's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
And just like back then, a lot of our men and women, they feel like they don't have any recourse except to take themselves out of this world.
Right.
And and that's why I wholeheartedly believe in projects like Enduring Warrior. I wholeheartedly believe in getting out there and throwing a ruck on your back. And I think that the benefits in the long run are just going to be completely and totally immeasurable.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And to wrap this up, go ahead and tell us what your next couple of events are, and we'll put in a link to the website on both the Facebook page and all the stuff that we have
Okay.
to your website. But there's another event that we actually have in Wichita Falls called the Hotter Than Hell 100, and
That sounds miserable. How do we get involved?
It's a bike race that they do every year.
Yeah, I'm talking everybody in the world comes to it.
Yeah, I think
wow.
the last year that we physically had it, which was 2019, they had over 100,000 bicyclists here in town.
No kidding.
And this year
we doubled our count.
Yeah, and this year, we're trying to see if we can get a ruck division set up, like a ruck event set up in accordance with the Hotter Than Hell. Like, you don't want to ride your bike. You don't want to. I mean, we have people that do the 100 miles on rollerblades, which I find.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you go, you do you. But if we can set up like a ruck division, I mean, we're going to try to approach that and see if we can pitch that idea to that committee and see if we can get Go Ruck to like national, recognize it and have them come in and help set it up. So, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step over you.
That's all right. Go ahead and tell us all the events that you're coming up for this next month.
Well, we've got, let's see, I know we've got a couple of Spartan races coming up. We've got, we're getting ready for the Pennsylvania Total Archery Challenge. We've got, oh goodness, I think we just did the, was it the Hard Rock? Or yeah, we just finished another ultra marathon here not too long ago. So a lot of stuff coming up. I'll share some links with you.
Okay.
Stuff keeps changing. Obviously, it's all focused around what our honorees want to do, and how we empower them. So there's a bunch of stuff coming up. We got a calendar on our website that shows where we're going to be. If any of your listeners are in the area or want to come out and join us, see what we're about, we'd love to have them. That's it's a lot of fun. We're a great family organization. We try and take care of everybody, from not only our honorees but our families and our volunteers. And I affectionately tell everybody that you all belong to me and you're all part of my family. And that's.
I'm one of those people that you just give me some food and a nice spot to sleep and I can pitch a tent. I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, you provide me with enough amenities. I'll even let you claim me on your taxes. But...
Hey, now we're talking. I need more dependents.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've got like what 400 and something of them living in Washington, but we can't claim those guys. So.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
All right, buddy. We're gonna go ahead and end this. This is Johnny Skeleton, David Dickerman, and thank you, Troy Warshel, to coming on here and talking about Operation Enduring Freedom. Thank you very much. Goodbye. All right, we'll just stop.
I appreciate that.